Hey everyone, and welcome to the second episode. So, this episode, I decided I'm going to walk you through my journey, talk about a few experiences and instances that stood out, and how I really got here. Now, who am I? It's not such an easy question to answer, primarily because people tend to tag themselves to the kind of job that they're doing or the career that they're pursuing, rather than looking at it more from a personal perspective. Because I feel that it's far bigger than that. I'd say there are so many other criteria, so many other perspectives that people tend to overlook. And that's something that we're trying to explain over the course of the show as well. So, coming back to the question at hand, who am I? Well, I'm a Malu by blood, a Malayali by blood, but a Bangalorean at heart. Having lived here for more than 20 years, I've come to love and accept the city as a whole. Now, probably not the traffic bit, but we'll get to that soon. There are a few stereotypical things about me that explain why I'm a Bangalorean at heart. I love masala dosa. I love filter coffee. I'm an engineer. I worked in the IT industry. And like I said, I hate traffic. Now, I know most people hate traffic, but Bangaloreans hate traffic with a vengeance. And if you're a Bangalorean, you know what I'm talking about. Just like most people, I took up a corporate job right out of college. Although I learned a lot and picked up a lot of skills and kind of just basically learned to deal with people and talk to people, I also noticed that my priorities and goals kind of took a backseat. I noticed that the priority was not personal growth anymore, but more about the company's growth. And I'd also say a big highlight on the rat race. Now, before I get into more details, I'd like to put an obvious disclaimer out there. In no way am I trying to diss the corporate community or the corporate crowd, and in no way am I entirely trying to paint this in the negative light. And neither am I implying that all the environments, all the teams, all the people, all the clients I've worked with have always bogged me down or brought me down. That's definitely not my intent here. But it was a matter of having to choose what shaped your life and what the actual priorities were in life. Now, corporate life. Corporate life, I feel, has its own sort of flavor. I feel the norms are very different. And I'm sure most of you folks would be able to relate to at least one of these things when it comes to your job. One thing that I noticed that really took a hit was lesser family time. I didn't get enough time to spend with my family, with my wife, with more emphasis being on having to take calls at the wrong hours, having to always be available, ensuring that work always comes first, which at times I feel is definitely required because there are certain priorities and certain maybe deadlines that you have to achieve. But the moment that kind of becomes the norm, that kind of becomes the basis of your career, there's something that's definitely wrong. And I noticed that was the case with my job too. And another thing that most people would be familiar with is stress. So I had my fair share of stress, quite a bit to be honest. And at one point, it was me telling myself that I just need to build my mind, strengthen my mind, build a fortress to kind of withstand all of this pressure and stress. But I realized that this was stress that I was taking for no apparent reason whatsoever. Things that didn't require stress, things that would otherwise have been maybe very easily handled if it were just up to me independently. I feel I would have handled it much better. So one thing that kept me going was that I was always drawn to business. So the fact that I was in the technology field, I kept working towards bridging the gap between technology and business because I feel the future would definitely revolve around technology, right? And that is something that kept me going. I took up as many opportunities as possible to learn around those things. But what I did notice was after a certain point, it became a little monolithic. It became a little monotonous as well to some extent. And having been in a corporate or the IT field for 5 years, I had learned enough to quite confidently say that I can handle a tech team. Considering I was quite keen on business, I had technology on one hand, which I constantly tried to improve and learn on the job. And on the other hand, I conceptualized a few ideas, a few startup ideas, if you will, which didn't really see the light of day because of the daily activities at work, different things I had to prioritize. And there was also this phase where I was given this opportunity to travel to the US, where my visa got picked as part of the H-1B visa process. So especially during that phase, all these other things kind of took a backseat. But during that phase, I could have definitely explored quite a few other areas. I could have learned a lot of other things. I could have invested time into the right activities, but sadly, that wasn't the case. And with most folks in corporate, right, they don't get the chance to kind of pause, take a break, breathe, and assess the situation. It's always trying to keep up with that whole 9 to 5, keep up with the rat race, and you just kind of miss out on life as a whole. And this is something that I've understood after talking to numerous folks. A lot of people talk about a job being just that, a job where I just need to go to work and just get done with the activity for the day, and I come back home and I do whatever I do on a daily basis. But I feel it's far more than that, especially with the fact that you're spending a third of your day at work and more than a third of your life at work, right? I think you should be investing more time into the right activities, focusing on personal growth, and ensuring that you're truly leading a purposeful life. And that's exactly what the show is about. Okay, so in an effort to keep things short, how do I end up here? In my last year at this corporate job, I decided to focus on this business idea that I had in mind. And I kind of made up my mind that I'm going to see it to completion. That was a very tough decision to make, primarily because the kind of activities, the kind of role I had taken on in my 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever you want to call it, was quite a challenging one. I had to lead a team or two, and I was required to be always available for discussions and whatnot. So what did I do? So, well, I decided that I'm going to make some time for myself, make some time for this idea that I had in mind. And I made it a point to get to work at least 3 hours prior to when my first call began at work. I remember those times when I used to reach work before the cafeteria opened, before the coffee place was open, before the lights were even switched on the floor to some extent, because no one really got to work at about 5:30, 6:30 in the morning, although the office is open 24/7 for all its employees. And that's where I decided I'm going to spend at least a couple of hours every day, ensuring that I do my bit and kind of work on these mini plans and mini goals I had in mind. And over time, this kind of became a habit. The best part of doing this was that all these activities kind of started my day off on the right foot. I didn't have to go into work stressed because I already knew that the most important activities on my list were already completed going into the first call of the day, which was an amazing feeling, to be honest, because of course all your regular activities, your daily 9 to 5 would probably give you, its own quota of stress. But the moment you kind of are at peace with it, I don't think any of that will kind of affect you like the way it would normally. And that's pretty much the situation I was in. At one point, I remember I used to go to work at about 5:36 in the morning, and I used to get back home at about 7 or 8. And those are the days where I tried to align at least the coming back home time with my wife's schedule as well. So she used to get back home at about 6, or I'd say about 7 in the evening. And so it made sense for me to get back around that time. And another thing I noticed was as I started working on these things, it kind of gave me more clarity on what I was doing, even with my 9 to 6 job. Right? I decided at one point that I'm going to say no to a lot of things if it meant that one, I can still get the job done, irrelevant of whether I attend this meeting that I felt was a little unnecessary, or if I felt this might kind of bog me down for, the other activities I was doing on the side as part of the startup venture. And I was lucky enough to keep that in balance. So once the base and the foundation for this business or the startup venture was laid, I decided that I'm going to go into it full time. But that didn't mean that I was ready to put down my papers and quit my job. What I instead did was take a sabbatical or a break from work, which I feel is something that most people aren't even aware of. and it's something that most people don't even take advantage of. Most companies have this whole sabbatical or break from work procedure, which if you've worked in the firm for long enough, you are entitled, or I'd say even have the opportunity or choice to kind of take a break from work. And that's exactly what I did. So yeah, I took a break from work for about, let's say, close to 4 months. And I ensured that on a daily basis, I did whatever was necessary to kind of inch my way towards my goals. I remember even those initial days, it was a little difficult because I had this sort of freedom that I didn't have earlier. And the fact that you had to work from home was something I was used to when working with a team. But when I had to work on it alone and having no one to report to and ensuring that I got my task for the day or the highlight of the day completed was a bit of a challenge initially, I'm not going to lie. But over time, I kind of found the right balance and I realized that, you know what, I love working from home and I love the fact that I'm not under constant stress and constant calls, unnecessary calls, unnecessary meetings, where I get enough time by myself to do the sort of deep work that I feel most roles require. And eventually, I formed a habit and a routine out of it that I'd say is still active to this day. Now, what is this business all about? The easiest route for me to have taken would have been to form a tech company or work on a tech idea. But I decided to do exactly the opposite of that. I decided to take a 180 and learn the operations aspect of things, work on the business development side of things. And because food has always been a very important or core aspect of my life and my family's life, I decided to do something in the food and beverage industry, which meant that I had to learn and pick up a lot of new things that I wasn't entirely aware of, at least at the detail with which I work on it right now. Because there are very obvious things that people know when it comes to food, but when it comes down to brass tacks and the actual details of it, I feel those are the things that kind of sets your business apart and set you apart as well. So I remember there were so many articles, so many videos, so many details that I had to really read up on, watch to get myself up to speed, which is something I did, which I pretty much love doing anyway, because I'm always looking at acquiring more knowledge and I'm a constant learner. So that kind of came easy. But what wasn't easy was having to find and make time for it. So one thing I've learned, not just with this, but generally in life itself, is if you don't decide to prioritize, if you don't decide on what you should be focusing on, someone else will prioritize your life for you. And that's something I decided was not going to be what my life was going to be about. Luckily, things picked up. My proof of concept kind of worked, and I decided to incorporate a company while I was still on break from my regular corporate job. But what was the biggest challenge was when I had to get back to work. Would I be able to kind of keep this going on the side while also handling this job? To some extent, yes, people can actually do that. And I keep talking to a lot of individuals who are looking to explore their hobbies, explore different avenues, maybe explore different business ideas too, where I suggest rather than just, jumping ship and focusing on it full time, which at some point you will probably have to do. I'd say that first 30, 40, 50% of the work can be something that you can try to do alongside what you already currently do. Just like I mentioned a while ago, right? You just have to make time for these kind of priorities. And if that truly is a priority in your life, it's just a matter of having to find the right time and space for it. So yeah, now coming back to where I was back at my job, kind of, doing the same sort of routine again, where I used to go to work early and get my business venture work done right before my actual day started. But over time, I realized, it kind of was just getting a little too much. And at that point, I also decided, or rather, I kind of noticed that I had to put in more effort and more time because there were a lot of opportunities coming my way. There were a lot of doors opening up, and I didn't really have a team where I could, assign work to someone and say, you know what, could you maybe take a look at this and see where this goes. So it was all me at that point, a one-man show, a one-man army. And at that point, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna somehow figure out how I can maybe sustain for the next couple of months or maybe year or a couple of years too. And that's when I decided to go back to the drawing board, take a look at what my savings look like, what my financial situation looked like. And I realized that with how frugal I have been with my expenses and not having spent too much on whatever it is that I needed to buy, I had enough saved away to ensure that I led a decently comfortable life for the next couple of months. And at that point, I decided, you know what, it's high time I move out of this corporate job, put down my papers, and focus on my venture full time. And yeah, that's basically what I did. After about 8 or 9 months after I started working on this venture, I put down my papers and decided to take the plunge. And I can tell you, I was shit scared. There was obviously pressure from family. My family members weren't too happy about it, just quite shocked because I was doing quite well at this corporate job. So their first question was, why are you even doing this? I mean, you're earning well here. What's the need to put yourself in this industry which you've never been a part of? Hobby and all that's great, but is this something that you'd want to do full time? And I remember at one point, after about let's say about 4 months of my sabbatical or break, I had this discussion with my family where they were quite shocked that I was actually planning to do this full time because from the get-go they thought this was something I was pursuing on the side. It's a hobby, nothing more. But the moment I decided to take the plunge, all the support that I received from my family kind of vanished. That doesn't mean that they stopped supporting me. Of course, they still support me to this date, but the way they approach this topic has been quite different ever since. So what did I do? I decided to go into 2020 with zero expectations and putting the emphasis on personal growth more than anything. I decided to learn and explore areas I've not ventured into earlier. I decided to acquire and pick up new skills along the way. I decided I'm going to focus on things that I've always wanted to do but never really got around to it. Like, for instance, focusing on my fitness, focusing on reading, because I was never a reader. But ever since I got into this whole making time for myself, making time for this business or anything that was kind of fueling my passion, I also noticed that I was learning a lot from these books and these articles I was reading. The way I decided to look at this was to kind of take this as a practical MBA. I see a lot of people, a lot of my friends, colleagues, and just people in general where they don't think twice about spending lakhs and crores on their education, on their post-graduation degrees, while I feel a lot of these can also be acquired on the job. Again, another disclaimer, this doesn't mean that MBAs are all of us and you shouldn't be going down that route, but I felt that at this juncture, I can look at exploring all these different avenues on the job by maybe investing a good portion of my savings into something that I truly believe in and see where this kind of leads. And you know what? The company actually picked up. We were doing incredibly well in the first quarter of 2020. We had some of the best clients in Bangalore reaching out to us, having partnered with us for a lot of their food needs, and on the marketing side as well, which again, if you guys go and take a look at right now too, we're doing quite well. But sadly, COVID hit us and no one really expected something like this to come our way. And being in the food industry, I can quite honestly say that the entire industry has been disrupted and it's taken a huge hit. Now, does that mean that I just give up and shut shop and say, you know what, that's that, I tried my best and I can't really keep up with the times? Hell no. I decided I'm going to give it some more time because food is going nowhere. And even as of the date of shooting this episode, things haven't really gotten back to normal yet. But I know for a fact, somewhere down the line, things are going to get back to normal, if not better. And the entire industry, and not just this industry, right? Just all industries in general are going to take a very different approach because of the pandemic and just how the world has adapted to this unforeseen circumstance. In an effort to kind of keep this short, I think that's where I'm at right now. With our operations a little slower, our entire team's focusing on marketing at this point, doing things that will kind of give us an edge when things pick up again. But I can quite confidently tell you that it's nowhere close to over when it comes to this business. But like I said, I'm always looking at one-upping things that I do. At this juncture, when I noticed that all this effort I was putting into this business, and not just me, my entire team, right, and we didn't see enough fruits or we didn't see enough results, it's an uphill battle, right? So I decided that I'm going to do something else on the side that's going to keep things going in the right direction for me and kind of keep me feeling good. And that's basically what this podcast is about. I remember back right before I quit my job, I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and just like I mentioned, the power or the energy that books and knowledge provides, I feel these sort of conversations, the right sort of podcast channels kind of give you that sort of nudge or the push that you're looking for. And that's something I'm hoping to do with this podcast too, especially for our Indian community. So yeah, let's see where this goes. So what did I learn with all these different experiences and these ups and downs I've had in my life? I can quite confidently tell you that nothing is permanent and the future is definitely uncertain. I remember having a lot of conversations with my family members and my friends about job security. I feel this COVID situation has pushed job security to the limit, and we're seeing a lot of people losing their jobs irrelevant of which company that they're part of. So I feel security can only come from within. If you have done enough to build a profile, build the right kind of skill sets, which will definitely ensure that you have something going for you, nothing like it. What else? Personal growth should always take the front seat or the front burner or whatever you want to call it. The best investment that you can make is the investment in yourself. Invest in yourself, invest in your skills, invest in acquiring the right kind of knowledge, and you will truly be indispensable. It's also easy to stick to one vertical, stick to your area of comfort. There are various instances with your career where you see doors opening up to different areas, verticals, and it just comes down to you whether you're curious, whether you're looking to learn, whether you're always looking to kind of one up yourself. And at that point, I'd say no matter what it is, just, you know what, there's no harm in trying. There's no harm in trying to understand where this might lead, right? So even if you're, let's say, tied down to some degree to technology, and you see that while you're on the job, you see a lot of other areas that you can invest in. There are a lot of other areas where you can kind of take away a lot of value from. I'd say just put in a little bit of effort and you definitely see a lot of growth and a lot of potential on those ends. Now, if you're content and happy with where you are and you're looking to just focus in on this one area vertical, then you know what, props to you. That's exactly what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to find a purposeful, driven life, ensuring that you are working at it with a clear goal in mind. So great. What else? So you don't need to quit your job to try something on the side. You need to be clear about what you're trying. It could be something on the lines of a hobby. It could be something on the lines of a business, or it could be just anything that you want to give or dedicate some time to. The thing is, a lot of people are bogged down by how society looks at just attempting or trying new things out. The sort of pressure that people are prone to nowadays with, you know, just even taking up something on the lines of a hobby. It kind of gets them to quit even before they get started with it, which is not such a good situation to be. So one simple advice or suggestion I can give is, if you feel you want to try something out or you feel there's some promise in some particular area or field, continue doing what you're doing, but also maybe make some time, carve some time out for this new idea or this new area that you have. And you would know firsthand and practically get an idea of whether, one, this might even work for you, and two, whether it's something that you even truly want to do, right? I see a lot of people who are just not driven even by these business ideas and ventures after they have quit their jobs and they're in it full time, because either the industry is not for them, or they realize that I prefer having a routine set by a company or working with another team that kind of has its own pros too, right? So it all comes down to the kind of person you are. It's just about setting the right expectations with yourself as well as the folks you'll be working with, to kind of be very clear on your deliverables and whatnot, while you also pursue something that you're quite keen on. A thought that I'd like to leave you with is that mental tolerance is key. Building a fortress, building up your mental strength can definitely go a long way. There are a lot of people who would easily give you advice or would easily comment on the sort of choices you're making in life. But at the end of the day, fulfillment and happiness comes from within. So there's no one else that can really make you happy and can really support you the way you would yourself. Now, the conversations I had with my family and friends were a little tricky, but I'd gone into these conversations knowing that these are just tips, these are just suggestions that kind of would complement the choice that I've made, would kind of go hand in hand with the base that is my decision at the end of the day. Because, like I said, there's no one else that can really make you feel that way. These choices at the end of the day are to get you to the level that you have always imagined yourself to be at, be it from a health perspective or career perspective or personal growth perspective, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. Because at the end of the day, you might have already had an image or a future for yourself, and these choices are basically just stepping stones which are taking you and kind of inching you closer to that. Now, if none of these things apply to you and you feel these are just going over your head or just mumbo jumbo, mind tolerance being key would still apply to you. I mean, that will definitely go a long way. Irrelevant of where you're at or where you're going or the sort of industry you're in or whatever it is you're doing with your life, right? The moment you can control your mind, the moment you can not let others impact your thought or the decisions you've made, nothing like it. The situation will definitely play out the way you have imagined in your head. And that's something that will definitely take you a long and farther way in life. Another important thing is to follow through with your decisions or ensure that you do whatever is necessary to kind of complement and support your choices, because it's very easy to get off track or sidelined because life can really get in the way. So whatever choices you make at the end of the day should be yours, but just know that these are choices that you need to follow through on, irrelevant of what happens and what the future holds. All these things slowly build up to bigger things and nothing happens overnight. All the success stories that you see, which apparently are overnight success stories, are basically just overnight to you. But these guys have been putting in the hard work and been toiling away for probably months and years together. And it's just that maybe it's made the cut in the news sometime recently. So whatever it is that you decide to do, just ensure that you are a little patient with it. You're giving it enough time. And I'm sure that if you put your head down and do the hard work, then it's all just going to fall into place just like how you imagined it. So yeah, this has just been a gist of my life so far. I think as we go through the series and as we go through conversations with our guests, maybe you'll get some more insight into how my journey in life is shaping up to be. But that's just one aspect of it. And I'd say that's not even the important or the highlight of the show. What I'm really trying to focus here on is the stories and the journeys that the guests are bringing to the table, because all of these guys have very different approach to life, have had a very different sort of upbringing, very different industry that they're working in. And just the fact that all of them are able to very positively and purposefully talk about what they are looking to do with their lives is something that I feel will translate and put across the message that I've been trying to convey or explain in the last, I don't know, 30-45 minutes. So I can't wait to drop that content. I think it'll be out soon, and I'm sure that will be far more interesting than just me sitting down here and talking to the camera. But yeah, one thing you can do to ensure you don't miss that out is to follow us or subscribe to our channels. In case you're listening to us over one of the audio channels, then consider subscribing or following us there, and you'll be notified the next time our episode drops. And if in case you are watching these episodes over YouTube, then consider hitting the subscribe button below and also hitting the bell notification icon, so that way you're notified and alerted the next time our video is pushed out there. And yeah, another thing you can definitely do to help us out is by liking this video and dropping a comment. Talking about comments, there's something weird that happened in this episode. I'm not sure if it caught your guys' eye. Maybe you want to go back, rewind and take a look again. If you notice something weird about the video, then let us know in the comments below. I'm not sure if it's that apparent or if it's that obvious, but if it is, let us know below. Okay, that was a long enough rant, and I think it's a good place for us to wind up the episode. I guess I have nothing else but to say I'll catch you on the next episode. Ciao, bye bye.